Saudi Arabia and Russia crash oil prices to sink the United States and reclaim market dominance. OPEC Plus floods the market with cheap crude, targeting U.S. shale already weakened by record costs, depleted fields, and Donald Trump's tariff policies. As the U.S. suffers its worst platform collapse since 2014, Moscow and Riyadh are sacrificing their budgets to strangle American producers. The goal: reclaim the 15% market share lost to Washington over the last decade. Experts warn that fracking is reaching its limit, with permits in Texas at historic lows and refineries shutting down. OPEC Plus might win this battle, even if it burns through billions in the process. The United States is on the brink of losing its energy independence. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us until the end, because what you're about to hear could change the way you see global power. Up next, we break down the facts you need to truly understand what's happening and stay one step ahead. This is News for Dummies, where we explain everything to deepen your critical understanding of current events. The collapse in oil prices, driven by increased production from OPEC Plus countries, isn't just meant to punish allies breaking the rules. Saudi Arabia and Russia want to crush the United States and take back their share of the global market. A decade ago, OPEC's last attempt at a price war against U.S. producers failed. Technological advances and the shale revolution allowed American companies to cut costs and compete at low prices, quickly gaining ground. But now, the game has changed. U.S. production, which hit 22.71 million barrels per day in 2024, is more vulnerable than ever. Production costs have soared in the last 3 years, while revenues are in freefall due to the collapse in crude prices, driven in part by Trump's tariff policies and global economic uncertainty. Sources within OPEC Plus and the oil industry confirm that the bloc's rapid production recovery aims to regain market share in an increasingly hostile environment. The strategy is clear: oil prices below $60 to shatter U.S. shale producers. To achieve this, OPEC Plus needs to push crude prices ideally between $55 and $60, creating uncertainty and derailing the plans of American producers. The message is loud and clear: if oil stays above that threshold, the U.S. continues gaining ground. The goal is to claw back the market share lost in recent years, as the U.S. increased its stake from 14% to 20%, while OPEC Plus fell from 40% to 25%. This price war is the new weapon to rebalance power in the global market. In fact, the U.S. has ramped up production by over 60% in the past decade, but OPEC Plus is not backing down. The trend reveals the Saudis' and Russians' game plan: as the most profitable wells in America's Permian Basin dry up, production costs rise, pushing shale producers to the brink. As drillers move into secondary zones, costs increase, explained a source close to the top of the oil industry. Inflation and the depletion of high-quality reserves in the United States have made production more expensive and less profitable. Saudi Arabia and Russia, in contrast, have extremely low production costs, between $3 and $5 per barrel in Saudi Arabia, and slightly more in Russia. But their strategy goes far beyond costs. They want the market to adjust to these new price levels and watch their adversaries collapse under the pressure. Meanwhile, OPEC's global market share has dropped from 40% to 25% in just 10 years. The United States, in contrast, has climbed from 14% to 20%. The battle for control is brutal and relentless. OPEC Plus countries together produce roughly 48% of the world's oil. Now it's time to dig in and fight to win back the share that slipped through their fingers over the past decade. This war isn't stopping. A senior Russian official, speaking anonymously, stated that U.S. shale oil growth is the primary source of market imbalance. American competition has been the sword of Damocles, and now they want to cut it off completely. Linua, CEO of Sarge Energy America, warns that the timing couldn't be worse for U.S. producers. Output is expected to fall this year as the most profitable reserves have already been tapped and profitability has vanished. She also points out that Trump's tariff policies and market instability further threaten to sink the industry. OPEC Plus's production hikes have eaten into U.S. shale and gas market share. The IMF estimates that Russia needs oil at $70 to balance its budget, while Saudi Arabia requires over $90. Yet surprisingly, the Saudis are willing to endure $60 oil if it means maintaining stability and avoiding total collapse. Riyadh has sent signals that a $60 price is tolerable, even if it means borrowing more to keep the books in order. Their strategy is clear: hold on, resist, and regain lost ground. What do you think about Saudi Arabia and Russia's willingness to sacrifice billions to bring down U.S. shale producers? Give us your opinion in the comment box below. The American oil industry is in crisis. Just 2 weeks ago, active drilling rigs dropped to 474, the lowest level since January, confirming a downward trend that began in December 2022. The slight recovery in April, with 489 active rigs, is already history. The fall in drilling activity shows shale production is hitting a ceiling. Diamondback Energy reported a 20% drop in fracturing personnel since January and expects rig counts to fall another 10%. In Texas, the situation is even more alarming. In April, drilling permit requests fell to their lowest level since February 2021, a 30% drop from previous months. Activity is slowly fading. On top of that, the Phillips 66 refinery was shut down due to state regulations on gasoline storage. Valero's plant in Benicia also closed, causing a shortage of around 250,000 barrels per day in California and driving up fuel prices. Oil prices below $60 not only hurt U.S. producers, but also jeopardize the entire supply chain. Profitability is evaporating, and bankruptcies in the industry are a real threat. For Trump, keeping oil prices low is a priority. It helps prevent an energy-driven inflation spike. But this strategy, which plays into the hands of the Saudis and Russians, could end up delivering a fatal blow to American production. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia and Russia are fully engaged in a barrel war, a showdown that threatens to permanently alter the balance of power in the global market. The battle for every oil dollar is more intense than ever. How far will they go in this war? The answer could determine who controls the market in the years to come, and who's left with the scraps. One thing is clear: the barrel war has just begun, and there's no turning back. The ongoing oil price war marks a decisive chapter in the global energy struggle, reviving historical tensions that date back to OPEC's failed attempt to crush U.S. shale in the 2010s. This time, however, the dynamics have shifted. With production costs in the United States skyrocketing due to inflation, depleted wells, and Trump's tariff policies, Saudi Arabia and Russia sense vulnerability, and they're pouncing. By flooding the market with cheap oil and pushing prices below the critical $60 threshold, they aim to suffocate the American energy industry and reclaim the 15% market share lost over the past decade. The immediate losers in this battle are U.S. shale producers already reeling from lower profitability and tightening margins. Entire regions like Texas and North Dakota face economic turmoil as drilling permits drop and refineries shutter. On the other hand, the short-term beneficiaries, Russia and Saudi Arabia, are gambling with their national budgets in hopes of restoring market control. But this strategy isn't without risk. Prolonged low prices could destabilize their economies too. The long-term consequences? A potential reshaping of global energy leadership, weakened United States energy independence, and a reassertion of petrodollar diplomacy. Now it's your turn. If you found this breakdown insightful, drop your opinion in the comments. Can the United States survive this new oil war? Will Russia and Saudi Arabia succeed or collapse under their own gamble? Subscribe for more updates as this barrel battle intensifies. And don't miss our next video on how fracking transformed America, and whether it's now coming to an end. Hit the bell so you stay ahead of the curve.